Have you intentionally taught leadership skills in your homeschool? Have you wondered how to do that as a homeschool parent? This is the Homeschool Sanity Show, the episode where my guest shares practical tips for training young leaders. I'm Dr. Melanie Wilson, Christian psychologist turned homeschool mom and curriculum author. And this is the podcast helping you wave goodbye to worry and say hello to a happy homeschool. Hey homeschoolers. My guest for this episode is Clara Stacco. Clara is a homeschool mom and bilingual native Spanish speaker who has taught Spanish to homeschoolers for more than a decade. She offers Spanish classes on her website, simplyteachingspanish.com. Clara and I discussed the importance of teaching leadership skills, how we should think about teaching these skills to kids who aren't natural leaders, and some practical ideas for learning leadership as homeschoolers. I hope you come away with new inspiration. Clara, thank you so much for joining me here on the Homeschool Sanity Show. I would love to have you start by telling us more about you and your family.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your show. And my name's Clara, as you said, and I have been homeschooling for 17 years. I have two sons, and I started homeschooling when my oldest was in preschool, so right from the get-go, and he is now an adult. And I am currently homeschooling my high school age son, and he's actually going to be starting his junior year next year. So, and I have been happily married for 25 years.
Well, congratulations. I'm just 5 years ahead of you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, would you tell us why you decided to homeschool initially?
Yeah, that's so what happened was I had my oldest son, and my husband and I, we knew we had to take him to preschool. So I actually went to a Lutheran school growing up. And so that was my plan, was for my son to go to a Lutheran school. So we went ahead and we checked a nearby Lutheran school, and we decided that the cost of that school was going to be too much. I mean, we would be able to do it with one child, but we knew we were going to have more children, and we knew it was going to be tight. And so we decided maybe we need to look at something else to do, right? Well, we were going to a church at that time. And at that time, I knew nothing about homeschooling prior to going to this church. So we went to this church, and there were two homeschool families there. They had kids that were older, like teens, very like mid-teens. And I just absolutely loved their kids. I was very impressed with them. And I found out that they were homeschooled, and I didn't know anything about it, so I asked them a little bit about it. So anyway, so I asked my pastor to come because we wanted to get his opinion, and when we told him what our issue was, he suggested that we check out homeschooling. And I said, I've heard of it. I know we have homeschoolers at the church, and I am curious about it. So I talked to my husband. I said, I'm going to do some research because that's the kind of person I am. I research everything. So I actually spent that whole summer researching homeschooling. And in my research, I found out all about the Charlotte Mason method of teaching. And as soon as I read the book about her and her method, it really resonated with me. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like I want to do this. This is how I want to teach my son. And also, so that was what got me interested. But the second reason that I started homeschooling is because I knew that I wanted my son to know who he was. I didn't want the world to be telling him who he is. I wanted him to know who he was, who God told him he is, and to be confident in that. So that is another reason why I started homeschooling.
Very good. That is a very interesting explanation, and it's definitely, I think that is the first time that I have been told a pastor recommended it. So wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about leadership skills. And it's a topic that I have never addressed before, and I think it is such an important one. And I would like to hear from you why you think it is important to be very intentional about developing leadership skills in our kids?
It is super important because leadership skills is something that they are going to have throughout their lives. It will help them in their education. It will help them in their future career. It will help them in their families. And being homeschoolers, you have to provide them with the opportunities for leadership, because once they're in public school, they may have some more opportunities, right? So with leadership, they can be a great husband, a great father, a great employee, right? So also, it's super important because leadership skills, having the right leadership skills will allow your child to serve others, to be able to help others in so many ways. So that's why I think it's super important that you do teach your children leadership skills.
My follow-up question to that is, aren't there some kids who are just not natural leaders? And I mean, I know there are because I have some of them. And so my question is, do we teach those children leadership skills as well? Or do we say, oh, no, this child is not going to be a leader. They're going to be more of a support person?
Teaching someone to be a leader can be done in so many different ways, right? So if you have that child that is possibly a natural leader, you go this way. But if you have that child that isn't, and I do have one of each myself. So my child who is not a natural leader, with him, I have to be intentional in teaching him leadership skills at home. So I give him those opportunities. I give him those opportunities in his education. You know, I sat down with him before he started his high school years. I let him choose the curriculum that he wanted to use. I helped him, I let him make decisions about his education. In the kitchen, another way to teach leadership skills is to say, you know what, today I would like you to plan the meal. Do the meal planning. You decide what we're going to eat. You take that over for the day. So even that person that is not a natural leader, you can instill leadership skills in them.
Well, that was really going to be my next question is about how to teach it when we are homeschooling. Is it required that we are involved in co-ops or learning centers in order to teach leadership, or can it be done in the home?
You do not have to be in a co-op or anything like that. No, you can do it as a family. You can be a leader if you're fortunate and blessed enough to have a younger sibling, right? You have the older child and the younger sibling. That older child can be the leader by helping that younger child. They can be the mentor for that younger child. So in helping that younger child, they can use their critical thinking skills. They can use any conflict resolutions, right? Because that's part of leadership. So you definitely can do it at home. You do not have to do it outside of the home if you don't want to. And there's some children, like my son, my youngest son, he's a homebody. He's not the kind of child that likes to go out. And so for that reason, I have been intentional of giving him leadership skills.
All right. Well, you've already hinted at a couple of ways that we can be instilling leadership skills into our kids, but I would love to hear more about practical ways that you have done this in your own homeschooling.
Yeah. So like I said, both of my children, so when my youngest was younger, before I realized that he was just going to be a homebody, my oldest was the one that did a lot. I had him participate in a lot of different activities, right? And so one of the things that my oldest wanted to do, my oldest actually wanted the opportunity to have leadership skills. He wanted that opportunity. So he sat with me one day and we talked about it. And I asked him, I said, well, what about a homeschool student council? Why don't we go ahead and, start that? would you like to do that? And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. So because of him, we were able to do that. We were able to start a homeschool student council. And the first year, because it was new, he was the president of the student council. And through that program, he and other homeschoolers, right, other homeschool students were able to learn so many different skills, about working together, problem solving, teamwork, communication, all of that in a student council, right? Another thing that my son participated in, and many kids probably know of this, but it's 4-H, the 4-H club. Have you heard of that? Yeah. So the 4-H club is another awesome opportunity for them to work together, do service projects together, do projects on their own. What I really liked about 4-H when my son first did it was that when they work on a project, they have to be interviewed by one of the 4-H leaders. And I thought that was an incredible experience for my son to prepare him for future interviews, college interviews, work interviews, right? It was great. So that's another opportunity for leadership as well. So
yes. So I would have loved to have had a student council for my kids to participate in. I'm a little bit scared thinking about what some of my stronger-willed kids would have accomplished as leaders in the student council. But I really think that is an amazing opportunity that you created for your son. Now, do you have some other ideas for us? Like, are there any programs besides 4-H that are really helpful in developing these leadership skills?
Yes. So I did a friend of mine, actually, I learned from a friend of mine that Chick-fil-A offers a program called the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy. And that was a program that offers, that helps teenagers learn servant leadership, which is what I really like about the program. And their philosophy is to engage the students, like basically start where they are and expose them to positive stories, and also equip them with tangible tools for leadership, for their leadership journey, so that they can go ahead and put those ideas into practice. And that was a program that involved them meeting weekly. They had to do projects together. One was a simple, small project, but the end project, they call it the impact project, that was the project that really helped them put into work all the skills that they learned. They had to do and so our project actually was for a museum called the Akron and Fossil Museum. And our students ended up redoing all of their landscaping for them. And it was a huge weekend job. Huge weekend job. And it was great to see them we had different teams. They worked in teams. They had a leader in each team. It was amazing. So that's a really good program. Another one that most people don't know about is a Toastmaster youth leadership program. So Toastmasters, helps adults learn communication and leadership skills. Well, they also offer this youth program for children, and it's for children under the age of 18. And it's basically teaching them the same thing. And it's an 8-week program. And the only thing with that is that you do need to have a Toastmaster club represent or be able to facilitate it for you. So if you can contact a Toastmaster club in your area, ask them if they would offer this youth leadership program, that would be another great program to have your children participate in as well. So that was another good one. And those were the two main ones that I think a lot of people don't know about. Oh, and there is another one, the Teen Pack Leadership School. Have you heard of that? Yeah, so that's another one that's really good. It's for ages 8 to 19, and they basically teach students that they're never too young to be a leader, right? And that one has to do more with learning how the government works, right? But again, it shows them, it teaches them that they can be leaders. It also teaches them how they can run for a class if they want, or they could be a mayor or whatever that is as well. So that's another one that's really
Excellent.
good and worthwhile to go
And
to.
I imagine, just based on my own children's experience, that your church is another place to look for leadership opportunities. My oldest son not only helped out with doing PowerPoint for our worship, but he took a position with the church and was in charge of it. So he had other people that he was directing. And that was an excellent leadership opportunity for him, because he basically answered to the pastors. So they were able to speak into his life while he was developing that skill. So that's another place to look. You never know what kinds of opportunities you could develop, even if there aren't opportunities already established for you.
Exactly. And Vacation Bible School is the perfect time.
I was thinking the very same thing.
Yes.
My kids have done that for many, many years. So that is another great outlet. And so I love that we're talking about it in terms of leadership and not just volunteering. Volunteering is an excellent thing to do in its own right, but our kids get the added benefit of getting those leadership practice opportunities too. Okay. Well, Clara,
Right.
I was
Yes.
hoping that you would tell us a little bit more about your website, Simply Teaching Spanish.
Yes. So I am a native bilingual Spanish speaker. I was born in the beautiful country of Puerto Rico. And I started my own small business in 2020. Actually, when I started homeschooling, very shortly thereafter, I started teaching outside of my home. I started teaching different classes. I taught communication, Spanish, and grammar were the three. And out of the three, the one that I loved the most, that just gave me the most joy, was teaching Spanish, because I loved hearing my students speak my language. So in 2020, I decided, because we couldn't do any, education from home, anymore. So I decided to go ahead and just start online classes. So Simply Teaching Spanish offers online conversational and high school Spanish classes for homeschool students.
Excellent. And so do interested people go to simplyteachingspanish.com? Okay.
Yes, they could go there, or they can email me at Clara
Okay,
at
wonderful. And are you
simplyteachingspanish.com.
on social media where people can connect with you?
Yeah, Facebook.com at Simply Teaching
wonderful.
Spanish.
Well, this is fantastic. I wish you would have had your classes available when my kids were learning Spanish, or I was trying to facilitate that. Because I didn't do a very good job of it. But I'm sure you having that bilingual background are an excellent teacher, and I can tell that you're very passionate about it too. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for having me on.
To find the resources Clara mentioned and a link to her website, visit the show notes page at homeschoolsanity.com/leadership. Have a happy homeschool week.
Thank you for joining me on the journey to homeschool sanity. I would love to continue the conversation. You can find me on social media at Homeschool Sanity. And if you haven't heard it lately, let me remind you, you're doing a great job. This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.